Welcome back, friends, to Lead Empowered TV, where we bring you real conversations that transform how we lead, work, and live. I'm your host, Nathan Mitchell. Today, I'm joined by someone who doesn't just teach business, he's really lived it, built it, and helped others scale it at high levels for decades. Michael Dill, also known as Coach Michael, is an award-winning certified business coach, global speaker, and published author. As a proud Action Coach franchise partner and president of Power and Ice Wealth Creation, he works with business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs to build structured, system-driven organizations that don't just survive, but thrive. With over 40 years of business and entrepreneurial experience across the restaurant, financial, and consulting industries, Michael has developed a reputation for helping leaders create highly efficient teams and scalable enterprises. Since 2012, he's coached hundreds of clients, with many seeing an average 25% increase in revenue year over year. He's also a two-time recipient of the Action Coach Action Plan Award for Excellence and has helped multiple clients achieve top honors at global BizX conferences. But what really sets Coach Michael apart is his focus on the whole leader, building businesses that can be sold, strengthening leadership benches, creating powerful systems, and most importantly, challenging people to become the best version of themselves. Michael, it's an honor to have you on Lead Empowered TV today. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet, man. It is such a pleasure to have you. I know we've had multiple conversations, and I think that you've helped organizations. I said 25%, but I think it's 26%, right?
At 25, yeah. I have a client now. We have our quarterly planning tomorrow, and we judge the year-over-year revenue and profitability. And that the number one person gets an award. And one company, they were up 73% revenues and 180% bottom line year over year. It's a $3 million company, so it's nice increases.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on that, and I'm sure they're very grateful for the work that you're doing with them and the results that you're helping them achieve.
Yes.
You know, Michael, you talk a lot about helping business owners stop being employees in their businesses, right? It's one of the things that you do. What's the biggest mindset shift that you find that leaders need to make to step into true ownership at the end of the day?
Well, the first thing is I had to start with me, because 14 years ago, I tell my clients, it's not like I became a coach, woke up the next day and had my act together. So everything I teach my business owners and leaders, as I had to go through myself. And one of the first books I read was E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber.
Yeah.
And it's a very easy component of, you have the technician that's really good at what they do, and then the manager that now builds a team and starts creating a scalable business, and the entrepreneur who has the business runs for them, where they can start taking that earned income and create passive income, other investments, and so on and so forth. So the first thing, the shift is really understanding that you're no longer a technician. That if you want to scale this thing, you have to enter a whole new realm of who you need to be, and you have to almost divorce who you were and become now a manager, a leader, a communicator, and really begin to step up to the next level and understand the components of that and let go. Yes, no one can do it as good as you. You need to let go of that, because there are people that can actually do it better than you.
Yeah, let go and trust people to do the work at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and that's great. You're helping people move away from technicians to managers and leaders is so important, especially when somebody is transitioning from a solopreneur to having a team of 10 to 15 people. It completely changes the game for those folks.
Absolutely. No question.
You know, one of the things that I like about your method is you have a 3-pillar system approach that really focuses on leadership, culture, and profitability. You know, when you step into a struggling organization, which of those is usually broken first, and how do you fix that? And then what's that sequence look like?
Well, first, I don't necessarily work with struggling businesses. When I was a new coach, I did. Now the organizations I work with are a lot larger. They have a lot of components. However, the first component I always take a look at is the culture of the organization. Are they clear on the vision of the organization, the big picture of the company itself? Are they clear on the mission, the actual how to create to fulfill on the vision, and the culture being those like the glue the culture points or the core values that keeps the company together. So sometimes they have a unwritten culture, and the first thing I work on is helping them create a written culture. And the way we do it is sometimes leaders think, "Oh, I'm going to create it." No, you're not going to create it. We're gonna have your team create it and come up with the culture points. Because when the team assists in creating the culture, and we do it as a process, creating the vision together and the mission and the culture, the points, and then when the culture is, everyone goes, all right, that's it. Everyone owns it because they created it. Now they can embrace it. And anytime there's a challenge within the organization, with any of the people, you take it right back to the culture points that they created and aligned with in the beginning. And it takes a lot of drama out, tremendous amount.
Yeah, and it's very much different than, when I was in the corporate world, we had plaques, right, by the time clock and those kinds of things. And some of these things were like 5 paragraphs long, and nobody knew what they were. You might read it, but nobody could memorize it and recite it and that kind of thing. But what I like about what you're doing is the difference in it being a collaborative approach. And you're involving the team members. As a result of that, they're more bought in, and really they just feel a part of the process and like they're being valued.
Yes.
During that process versus just having something dictated to them and handed them down from the top.
Yes, and that also goes back, Nathan, to the first thing we spoke about, of how that the mindset shift of the owner scaling a company, when he begins to align and empower the team to work as a team and create the culture of the organization, he begins to see like, all right, I got something here.
When you're working with organizations, at what point do you see that begins to happen, where you have a solopreneur, they're hiring employees? At what employee count does it really reach kind of a tipping point where that business owner is like, you know what, I need to bring Coach Michael in here to help me, otherwise this thing's going to flip upside down? Well,
it depends where they want to go with it. Do they want to grow? Do they want to scale? But if you have 10 or more employees, yeah, you need to get a coach, because for the company to grow, you have to grow into the person that can grow this company. Your company cannot outgrow you. So the old you, like I'm working with a company that they're at 5 million, they want to go to 10. And they've done a good job. I said, understand, the person that took you from 0 to 5 is not the person you need to be to take you from 5 to 10. And what you did from 0 to 5 is not what you need to do from 5 to 10. So it's a whole new ball game now. And it's just a whole different playing field and different ways of looking at things. So yeah, every time it grows, if the company grows and then it gets stuck, well, guess what? If you're the leader, now you have to grow more to take it to the next level.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of what, John Maxwell talked about, the leadership lid. That whole idea, and what we're talking about here is the business owner cannot outgrow their own personal capacity at the end of the day without developing into a higher level business owner and individual, which is why they, of course, choose to bring people like yourself in.
Correct.
Michael, you emphasize kind of this equation, be times do equals have, and that who you are is ultimately really driving your results. How does a leader actually work on the be portion in a practical way daily to make movement and momentum?
First, kind of go back to what we just spoke about, is make them aware. Everything we have in life, people think what I have is based on what I've done. No, it's not based on what you've done. Everything you have, good or bad, is based on who you are. So if you want more out of your team, if you want more out of the organization, you need to become more. Like a common phrase you hear a lot from leaders of organizations, business owners, like, what do I have to do to find the right people? And anytime I bring that up, they go, yeah, I've said that. Yeah, I've said that. And the wrong question. What do I have to do presupposes there's no good people out there. But if he or she asks the question, who do I need to be as a leader to create the culture, the brand, and the organization that attracts the quality people that want to represent this organization. For a leader to ask that question, who do I need to be? Like, whoa, there's a lot more to that equation than what do I have to do? So they have to step up. They need to shine. They need to be clear in the communication. They have to have that culture. They have that image of being crystal clear on knowing where they're going with the organization. Because if you're looking to hire people and build a team, you got to know exactly where you're going, because you can't not be clear on the vision and then say, hey, team, follow me. And they say, where are you going? Oh, I don't know. Don't worry about it. Just follow me. We'll get there.
Yeah, and more importantly, be actively involved in the process, right? I mean, I'm in similar work to what you're doing, and at the end of the day, I've worked with organizations that have brought me in to work with their people, and they're like, my organization needs this, and yet they feel like, I don't know, like it's this rite of passage that they don't necessarily need it, right? So we come in and we do half day or full day trainings, and it's like the people that brought me in are not even there supporting the initiative that they've created, launch, and have tried to get, buy-in from their employees with. And I just find that to be so problematic at the end of the day.
I had a conversation with a gentleman, and exactly that. I'm good. Coach my team.
Right.
So I said, well, no problem, but I just want to let you know, most likely somewhere in between 6 and 12 months, we're going to have to start a recruiting program. He goes, what? Because of our growth? I said, no. So when your team outgrows you as a leader, and they leave to go to greener pastures, we're going to start to need to recruit.
Right. Like a succession plan, right?
And then his head started bobbing, looking around. He goes, maybe you should work with me also. I'm like, it's probably a good idea. Yeah. I ask the questions to make them realize it. I don't tell them.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Michael, you said that getting clear on your why is really important in business, and that it really has the potential to change everything. And I couldn't agree more. I discovered my purpose when I was 35 to help people unlock their true potential, and it has served me so well over the last 15 years. What happens inside a leader or a business when that type of clarity, finally clicks and they realize, we really need to find out what our organizational purpose is?
Yeah, well, I'll start with what happened to me when I was looking at buying this coaching practice. I took a walk, and I started asking myself certain questions. And across the street from my house is a church. And I started getting a little emotional and kind of like an out-of-body experience. And when I stepped in the curbing, I saw a statue of the Mother Mary. And for the next 3 minutes, somebody else was in charge. So I finished my walk and kind of shook off the cobweb. I was like, whoa, that was interesting. And I was ready to come home, and I realized, like, okay, I have to acknowledge this. I can't ignore what happened here. And I went to the statue of Mother Mary, put my hand on the head, and I said, I didn't ask for advice, but if this is the lead, I'll follow your lead. And I realized right then and there that God appointed me to be the best I could possibly be, because there's people out there going to need my assistance. And I also realized right then and there that when we become a business owner, whatever field it is, we sign an unwritten oath, a commitment to become our best, because it's not about us anymore. It's about serving. And it just got me really, really, really clear. So when people say, why do you do what you do? I'm like, 54 years old, looking for the next step, and the big guy taps me on the shoulder and said, this is where you need to go. I'm like, okay. So when you get clear on exactly why it's not work, it's fun, it becomes passion, and people can't hide energy. And if you're looking to build a team, if you're very clear on where you're going and why you're going there and who you serve, it's very easy to empower people that want to represent the brand. But if you're building a company just to chase money, keep chasing, because it's going to run.
There's a couple of things there. First of all, I love that you said it's not about me anymore, especially if you're hiring employees, right? I mean, you have these people's families' livelihoods, that they're entrusting you and your organization with, helping to provide for their needs at the end of the day. And obviously there's responsibility on their on their shoulders as well to do their work and help the organization grow and those kinds of things. How much is this identification of purpose and exploring the why foundation? How much is that involved in the culture aspect and strategic process that you use when you work with organizations?
You asked me before, leadership, culture, profitability first, and
Yeah.
we go right to the culture, but we really look at the leader. And being a leader sometimes is like a double-edged sword. We have to show up at a certain capacity each and every day to shine the light because we're the visionaries. And sometimes, perfect example, I went to an event and someone said, "How you doing?" I said, "Awesome." They go, "What do you mean awesome?" I said, I'm awesome." You go, "You can't always be awesome." I'm like, "Why not?" He goes, "Well, you would never, don't you have a bad day?" I said, "Yeah, I got a bad day." They go, "Well, you would never know it." I said, "Right. You would never know it. I don't have a bad day around you. I don't vent across or vent down. I vent up to my coaches." So the leader has to understand that they need someone like myself that they can get that noise out with, because my real component is to make sure they're on their A game. So when they're on the A game, they show up with an energy and they know exactly what to do, what to say, what to ask. And that's really the biggest component. So yeah, the leader needs to understand that, listen, you're the leader. You've took it on. And fortunately, I have a checklist of exactly the attributes of leadership, the causes of failure in leadership. So they have a checklist of how to show up, how not to show up. I have them rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. And if there's some low scores, they know exactly where they need to shine up, and I'll be their guide to get there too.
Yeah, what you're really talking about there is that whole idea of just discretion and discipline, right? Especially regarding communication, how we're showing up emotionally and behaviorally every day in the workplace. Knowing what to share, when to share it, and who to share it with, right? I mean, to your point, when you're having a bad day, you communicate that up to your coaches, not to the clients that you work with, right?
Yes, and I also have a discipline.
Go ahead.
I have a discipline in the morning. Here's what's interesting. How do you become the person you need to be? If I was to ask anybody, do you know the discipline it would take to get in great physical shape? Everybody knows the answer. Yeah, I need to go to the gym. I need to drink, or I need to do this, this, and this. So they can wrap their head around that. Yes, there is a discipline that I need to follow if I want to get in good physical shape. Whether they do it or not is another thing. Now, if I ask what discipline do you have to make sure you get in mental shape? People they don't wrap their heads wrapped around the fact that you have to have a discipline and ritual to do whatever you need to do to make sure you get on your A game, get the right stuff in, flush out the bad. So that's one of the principles when I'm really intuitive to my leaders, what they're saying, how they're saying it, the energy that's being picked up. And if they got some stuff they need to fix, I give them tools to make sure they do whatever they need to do. So when they walk in the office first thing in the morning, they're on their A game.
Yeah.
That's it. Whatever it takes.
Yeah. And it's so important, right, to have that mental component right, especially when you're a leader or a business owner and you're feeling like you're stuck in the day-to-day grind of things, which obviously happens to the best of us. So when you encounter that, Michael, inside of an organization with the leaders that you're working with, what's the first system or habit that you have them implement immediately to just rectify that?
I ask them questions. Here's something I've learned, Nathan. I'm really big at asking questions. If someone's talking, the person we're speaking to may or may not be listening. But if I say, "Nathan, is it okay if I ask you a question?" You have to step back in your brain and start thinking, okay, what's the question? Am I going to be able to answer it? And when you ask somebody a question, it forces them to think. So a talent I have acquired over the years is not to tell people what needs to happen. I ask them questions, keep probing with questions. And when they start getting where they need to go, I said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So what else needs to happen? What do you need from me? And I give them the tools. And again, I have all the tools: learn, study, master, teach. Everything I teach, I've learned, I've studied, I've mastered. I have a discipline in the morning to make sure I'm on my A game. I have all those disciplines. So I have them do a little work on their end, and then I start sharing what I have. And then I help them get through, whether it's affirmations, whatever it may be. Um, and the first thing I ask is any leader, I said, what does the first hour of your day look like? They tell me, oh, I get up, I get a cup of coffee, and I put on the news, or I put on what, or I get my cup of coffee and I start going through my emails. No. What's your hour of power look like? What do you do the first hour of your day to make sure when you walk in the office, you're ready to go? So that's one of the first components I attack, because it's necessary. It's unlooked by a lot of folks, but it's very necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for me, that's waking up every morning, doing a devotional, practicing gratitude, those kinds of things. Obviously coffee is a part of that, but it's the devotional and expressing gratitude and just getting my mindset ready for the day. That's really important piece in that whole thing.
Absolutely. No question.
Michael, we have a few minutes left, and I definitely want to make sure I've shared, some graphics here during our time together, so people can scan a QR code. They can go to your website, schedule a call with you. I've also promoted your book a couple of times during the course of our broadcast today. But where do people need to go? Tell us more about you, your website, those kinds of things. Talk about your book. We've got a few minutes to do that.
Yeah, the book actually was an idea I had in play for 30 years, that I kept saying, I got to write a book, I got to write a book, I got to write a book, I got to write a book. Then the pandemic came and my coach said, hey, remember that book you're going to write one day? Think now's the time to do it? I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm going anywhere. And maybe it was just the intimidation that I never wrote a book. And it wasn't hard. I had a lot of content, weaved together the content. It was very enjoyable. Reading it made me feel really good about myself, something it was an accomplishment that I've never done before. But, I have a YouTube page, my website, businesscoachmichaeldill.com, have the book, Monday Morning with Coach Michael on my YouTube page. Get your golden nugget. But very simply is, if you are a committed leader, business owner that really is willing to do what it takes to become the person you need to be to take your business to a whole new level, I'm your guy. But commitment's a big word. A lot of people say, yeah, I'm committed. We say, we'll see.
Yeah, it shows up in the daily habits, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining us on Lead Empowered TV today. This has been an incredibly valuable conversation. I appreciate not just the strategies that you've shared with me and the viewing audience, but the way that you just challenge us to think differently about what it really means to lead and build something that lasts. And so much of that just starts within us, right? And self-awareness. And for those of you who are watching or listening, if there's one thing to take away from today, it's this growth. It's just this idea that growth doesn't happen by accident. It really happens when you become the kind of leader and business owner that your people actually need. And if you got value from today's conversation, make sure that you subscribe, or share this episode with someone who's ready to stop surviving in their business and really wants to start leading it and thriving. So, Michael, people want to connect with you. Thank you so much for sharing about your website and your work and your book. I appreciate you doing that. Thank you so much for being here on Lead Empowered TV today. Hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you for having me, Nathan.
You bet, my friend.